Crockett's girlfriend's drug habit gets him into a heck of a lot of trouble on today's Miami Vice. Theresa was directed by Virgil W. Vogel and was written by Pamela Norris, and it features the simultaneous return and exit of Crockett's girlfriend, Dr. Theresa Lyons, played by Helena Bonham Carter. We've got another great opening sequence here. As Jewel by Propaganda plays, Vice prepares to raid the mansion of a drug lord named Joey Wyatt, who is played by Brad Dourif, who excels at playing incomparably slimy characters. He's the voice of Chucky in the Child's Play films, he's one of the asylum patients in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he played Grima Wormtongue in the Lord of the Rings films. When Hollywood producers are looking for an actor to radiate wholesome sanity, they don't call Brad Dourif. They call Brad Dourif when they're looking to cast a character named Grima Wormtongue. When an overzealous neighbor calls the cops on Crockett and Tubbs, who are parked outside Wyatt's mansion in Crockett's Ferrari, Wyatt is notified of the police activity by a henchman, Arzola, played by musician Timmy Capello, who you all know as the shirtless, oiled-down saxophone player at the beach concert in The Lost Boys. If you've seen The Lost Boys, you remember the shirtless, oiled-down saxophone player. Wyatt tries to cover his tracks by flushing his coke before Crockett, Tubbs, and Switek move in to arrest him. Wyatt's helicopter, which is transporting 100 keys of cocaine, is ordered to land by the police, but Wyatt's goons end up dumping all that blow into the water instead. Crockett's romance with Theresa is still going strong, but so is her clandestine heroin habit. While working at the hospital, she secretly meets with her dealer, Rudy Ramos, played by Adventures in Babysitting's Calvin Levels. He threatens to expose her addiction unless she snoops through Crockett's files and gives him the address of the Miami PD's evidence locker. Shortly thereafter, the evidence locker is blown to pieces, killing several officers. The destruction of the evidence locker means several cases are substantially weakened, including the one against Wyatt. A copy of one of Crockett's files is found at the guard station outside the evidence locker, which means the bad guys used it to gain access. Crockett realizes Theresa must have stolen his file. In anger and disbelief, he confronts her. She confesses that she's a junkie. She started using painkillers after back surgery, and her usage has escalated. Crockett is devastated by this revelation, but promises to help her. Theresa goes into rehab, and Tubbs tracks down Rudy Ramos and gets him to admit he gave Crockett's file to Arzola. Crockett, Tubbs, and Switek go after Arzola, but Arzola is hit by a car and killed while trying to escape them, while Wasteland by the Mission UK plays. An internal affairs agent, played by Zach Grenier, who you have seen playing various shrewd yet slithery characters in films like Fight Club and on TV shows like The Good Wife, investigates Crockett. To clear his name, Crockett works with the district attorney, Martinez, played by Richard Chavez, to come up with a plan to ensnare Wyatt. Crockett tells Wyatt he has an incriminating tape that survived the evidence locker explosion that he's willing to sell to him. Before Crockett can meet with Wyatt, he gets a call from the rehab clinic. Theresa slipped out after learning her medical license was revoked. Crockett heads off to meet with Wyatt while Tubbs looks for Theresa. He finds her in a car, unresponsive after an overdose, and takes her to the hospital. Wyatt boasts to Crockett, who is wearing a wire, that he paid Arzola to blow up the evidence locker. At this admission, Vice moves in to arrest Wyatt, and Crockett, in a fit of rage, beats up Wyatt until Switek pulls him off him. Crockett is beating people up in fits of uncontrollable rage an awful lot this season. Thus far, we've seen it in Shadow in the Dark, and in Forgive Us Our Debts, and this episode. And I don't feel great about it. It might very well be a deliberate choice by producers to show us Crockett's increasingly precarious mental state as the job puts him under more and more strain. The episode ends with Crockett sending Theresa off to another rehab clinic in another state and promising he'll stick by her, and we'll never see her again. This is a good episode. It hits the sentiment a little too hard for my personal taste, though your mileage may vary, but Helena Bonham Carter does a good job of playing a smart and likable junkie, and the bad guys, Wyatt, Arzola, and Rudy Ramos, are all despicable and fun. Gotta say, it's a little weird that Theresa disappears entirely from the picture following this episode, with no follow-up. We're certainly accustomed to Crockett's romances not lasting longer than a single episode, but there's a great deal of buildup about how Crockett is planning on proposing to Theresa, and he's willing to quit Vice to stay with her, and he promises to stick with her after rehab, and I don't see the point of all that if there was no plan in place to continue on with this character. But still, it's a nice episode, it's perfectly enjoyable to watch, and I'm giving it 3 flamingos. Next time, John Leguizamo returns as Orlando Calderon and goes to a crazy amount of trouble to make Tubbs' life more difficult. Please subscribe to my channel to be the first to see it when it drops, and I will meet you back here later.